Hello fellow anime enjoyers, I'm not a furry, but today I'm here to rank 26 different furry animes, plus 5 extra honorable childhood anime mentions. Obviously, I couldn't watch every single existing one cause some aren't available and others are like those kids shows that no one outside Japan knows about. Anyways, I think this many should be more than enough. So here's how it's gonna work. We're gonna have this tier list, but I'll start from the worst one and climb our way to the best one, as simple as that. I did have to watch quite a few weird things and obscure stuff to make this video, so bear with me and you might find something interesting to watch by the end of it. The reviews will be spoiler free and I'll only talk about my opinion in general without getting too specific. We actually don't have any F tier this time, so starting with our last place, the only one in E tier, I think I might receive some hate, but I really didn't enjoy Shirokuma Cafe, or the few episodes I cared to watch, because I'm not sitting through 50 of those. It's a slice of life about this cafe place ran by a polar bear, where all the main characters usually get together to hang out and chill. I have many problems with the anime, from it being really boring since the start, the characters being a bit too annoying with too much direct comedy. I wouldn't mind that if it wasn't so bland and delivered in a poor way. I get that this is not my niche and josei anime aren't usually very up my alley, but I was expecting it to be a bit more accessible considering the My Anime List score. Jumping already to D tier, the animes I didn't really enjoy much, but weren't terrible. Catch 1 is one of the funny titles I mentioned in my weird manga titles video, and let me say, it does hold up to the title, cause what was this? It's basically 20 minutes of a really shaky cameraman filming a random bunny gun battle. Maybe with a rewatch I could like this more, but for now the only thing preventing it from being dead last is Shirokuma Cafe. Now, I bet you had no idea there was an Animal Crossing anime movie, and so did I before making this video. But well, it's right here in 24th place. I have to tell you I've never played the games before, which probably impacted a bit in this low position, because I didn't get very excited with the characters appearing or the lore references. There wasn't even Anka or Isabelle, since it's such an old movie. I didn't even know Animal Crossing existed at the time. I have to say this is a movie really aimed at kids, and the characters in the story move according to that. So it ends up being a pretty chill movie that doesn't do much, yet still fails to develop the few plot points and character dynamics it introduces. I can imagine the lack of a strong storyline comes from the genre of the game itself, which is understandable, but doesn't really do it for me. Another jump to tier C, where we get to animes I thought were just okay or needed to do a bit more to convince me. The first one here is The Eccentric Family, an anime about a family of transforming tanukis, some other mythological creatures, and the terrible, most horrible and disgusting group of villains ever, the Friday Club. I don't like the way they make it seem like the Friday Club is so evil, yet the characters don't act like it. I like the family dynamics and the elections drama, which make me forget about real elections, so a positive point. I had to watch most episodes in 2x speed because, God save me, the pacing is so slow. It felt like it took an eternity to pass the character introductions part and start anything more interesting. In 22nd place, we have Tamala 2010, a punk cat in space, a really weird avant-garde sci-fi movie that mixes 3D and 2D flash animation. To be really honest, this feels way more like a horror anime, not a comedy one. The main character is this cat called Tamala, who is searching for the truth of her origin. This was supposed to be a trilogy of movies, but it's been almost 23 years, and I don't know if we'll still have a sequel. It's a bit disjointed, and this movie introduces a lot of things and characters that end up not developing enough, mostly because of the sequels that were originally planned. Some parts were a bit unnecessary, and others made me a bit uncomfortable. Also, the main character always talks like a baby, but out of nowhere throws some F-bombs and smokes. Like, that's kinda sus, not gonna lie. I do have to admit I didn't find it boring, and the music was pretty good at setting the mood and the vibe. Our 21st place, Neko Ramen, is just like Gakuen Handsome, a visually striking short episode series, but instead of featuring gay man, the selling point is a cat with a ramen place. It's very fast-paced and honestly kinda funny, but there isn't much more to it. The episodes are really small, and you don't really connect much with any characters. It's some fast fun to enjoy in less than an hour while eating or something. An interesting aspect that I didn't notice until I finished watching is that every episode was produced by a different creator. Now that explains the frequent change in style. In 20th place, we have Lee's Detective Agency, A Day in Lungmen, a story happening in the same universe as Arknights, which had an anime adaptation a while ago that I personally thought was really overrated. This short series couldn't be more different though. From the very distinct and nice art style, the story, which doesn't have many connections to the main series, I think. This reminds me a bit of Hell of a Boss, despite that one being way more inappropriate. All the 6 episodes are available available to watch here on YouTube through the official Crunchyroll channel, which is pretty cool. I'd say it could have been better if it had more episodes and a proper story, cause there was no time to introduce and grow the characters in a fulfilling way. In 19th place we have Africa Salaryman, which without context sounds a bit weird, especially considering some of the other titles that appear within the anime. This anime is basically a workplace comedy with a strange mix of 2D and body tracking 3D, which looks kinda... Wait, are they doing Fortnite dances in the opening? It's honestly kinda silly, and I'm pretty sure you can find half of the sound effects they use in those free download videos on YouTube. The anime is constantly delivering jokes non-stop, most of them not very impactful, but some manage to hit a little and make me smile every now and then, so for me that's enough. Still within the C tier, but now getting into some animes that I could see myself putting in B tier already, we have Tonari no Yokai-sen in 18th place. I've talked about this anime in my spring 2024 tournament video, and to be honest, it was one of my favorite animes of the season, which would be saying something until you realize that was a super weak season for new animes. This is a very wholesome anime that mixes a captivating mystery with some supernatural slice of life elements, very similar to the eccentric family with tengus and transforming animals living together with humans. I like this anime and the opening is really chill and nice, but it's a bit too slow for me, and some of the subplots weren't interesting enough to sustain the excitement when there weren't advances in the main mystery. In 17th we have Ramen Akaneko. Yes, another one about ramen and cats. I unfortunately didn't have time to finish it before having to write and record the video. I think it definitely has potential to jump to B tier if it continues good like it has been, but I struggle a bit to think of a way it could keep being fresh and interesting after 12 episodes. I do like the different personalities of the cats and the way they were first introduced. It really surprised me because I wasn't expecting to put it this high. Closing the C tier, I am giving the 16th place to Porco Rosso, the first Ghibli movie of the list. The classic Miyazaki movie full of planes and more planes. I watched this a long time ago, but I remember liking some aspects of it and others not that much. In general, it was an entertaining movie that didn't leave much of an impression on me. Opening up the B tier, we have Wolf Children, a movie directed by Mamoru Hosoda, the same guy who did Summer Wars, The Girl Who Leapt Through Time, banger movie, One Piece Movie 6, another banger, and many others, including another entry we'll discuss in this list later on. I have problems with this movie. I can see that it's a good emotional movie, but it just leaves me irritated. I don't like drama movies that make me expect the obvious worst things to happen at any moment, especially when it involves children having to keep secrets. They're kids, they're gonna spill everything immediately. Not saying it did or didn't end up happening. Other than that, I also got a bit annoyed at the ending with Ame's character development and the overall resolution. With that said, I do think it's kind of relatable in some aspects, as someone who went from the city to the countryside quite young. Good, but could have been better. Well, you surely didn't have to wait much, because The Boy and the Beast was made by the same director as the previous one. This first caught my attention and I wanted to watch it anyways before the video, so it was a good opportunity. It's a different vibe of isekai, feels way more self-contained than most isekais, which don't really have an introduction, development and conclusion. One of my favorite points of this movie by far are the characters. Pretty much every character has a solid personality, nice design, satisfying growths, and are all very likable. The first half was really cool and I had a smile on my face most of the time, but the last 30 minutes started to drag a little bit, and the conclusion left a bit to be desired. It doesn't change the fact that the first part was awesome, but stops it from being the top 10 for sure. In 13th place, we have a movie I find quite underrated, A Whisker Away. Maybe I just expected worse from all the reviews and the general consensus, but I had some good fun watching this movie. It's a pretty basic and decent romance drama movie with a small twist that keeps things entertaining. The highlight was definitely the cat realm part, which I wish was a bit more explored, but other than that, it's a standard good movie to watch when you don't have much to do. In 12th place, I decided to put Night on the Galactic Railroad. A mix between The Little Prince and Train to the End of the World, is a slow-paced imaginative anime from 1985. This movie felt like one of those weird and mysterious dreams that when you wake up you'll remember, cause you know you won't have any other that feels quite the same way, and you kinda wish you could go back and explore even more. I'd say it's a nice movie to watch at night in bed, cause it gets you in the mood. Just be careful to not get too in the mood and fall asleep, which almost happened to me a few times. The soundtrack is great and I like how the backgrounds in the town are built. They give a nostalgic feeling and look like old paintings. The only downside is the lack of a more impactful plot, but it doesn't matter as long as you get the dreamy vibes. Some people really don't like Pompoko, but I'd still give it a really good score, enough for an 11th place here. I like the balls, the documentary-esque style of narration, the balls, the flow and progression spanning multiple years, the balls, the festival scenes in the city, the balls. Did I mention the tanukis have balls and use them to transform into stuff? I don't know if I would give it such a high placement if I had watched it nowadays. It definitely had the advantage over the eccentric family and Tonari no Yokai-sen for being the first one I watched from this niche. It's Studio Ghibli, they know what they're doing. There she is, opening our top 10. I originally had this a bit higher, but it didn't pass the test of time that well. It's a classic forbidden love story, but one you can watch in 30 minutes and doesn't have voices, only banger music by Taboo. In 23 minutes, it does what a lot of other romance animes fail to accomplish in 12 full-length episodes. It has a progression and works really well as a whole. Definitely recommend for anyone interested. In 9th place, we have one of the biggest names of the list, Beastars. You might be wondering, why do I not have it higher? Especially considering Orange is one of my favorite studios and I quite like anthropomorphic anime. Well, I really appreciate the world building, the character designs are distinct and good enough, the dynamics between the different types of animals is interesting to discover, but, and this is a big fat but, it's kind of cringe. It just has some scenes and misunderstandings that, ouch, really detracted from my enjoyment. I'm yet to watch seasons 2 and 3 though, so I'm expecting this to go up my rankings afterwards. And please, Studio Orange, make Land of the Lustres season 2, I need it as soon as possible. In 8th place, Spring and Chaos brings us a biographical story of the poet Kenji Miyazawa, told in a very visually fascinating way. The main character is fun, charismatic, and honestly a bit relatable at times. The art style is charming and cool. It's a small movie that you can watch in an hour. I definitely recommend if you like weirder emotional stories, but with a certain joyful tone to it in some parts. In 7th place, we have The Cat Returns. As I said in my Ghibli movie tier list, this is what I expected The Whisper of the Heart to be. It's pretty much a basic classic anime adventure movie with an engaging conflict, very intriguing characters. Nothing really stands out that much, but overall I just feel like this is really solid. My 6th place is My Little Goat, a horror stop-motion short that follows the end of the classic The Wolf and the Seven Young Goats in a more unsettling and creepy tone. The image of the ghosts after being taken from inside of the wolf, this new little goat that replaces one of them, it just makes a very creepy atmosphere and it really hits you the first time you watch. After a second time, it went a bit down for me because it lost a bit of the shock factor, but I do like the cruelty and the comparisons they present here, despite being a very heavy subject. Before talking about the top 5, I want to give 5 honorable mentions to some childhood furry animes I used to watch a lot but won't be ranking because I watched ages ago. Maya the Bee, a classic one, the Portuguese opening is such a banger that I still have it on my Spotify playlist. Banner Tale, the story of Grey Squirrel, or whatever the English title is, because I'm always gonna be calling it Bunny Flappy. This was a favorite, such a banger adventure story with awesome characters. Could see this being an easy A tier if I rewatched. D'Artagnan and the Three Musketeers, or D'Artacão in Portuguese, my parents didn't let me watch this till I was 9, even though it said 4+ in the DVD cover, never recovering from that trauma. Hello Kitty's Paradise, a really nice series with a premise that allows a lot of different settings and stories. By far the most memorable that marked me and shaped my taste till this day was the race episode. It had that wacky races feel, you know, that redonkulous race catchiness. The last one is the least known one, Oxtails, known here as Boi Bocas. This is a normal kids show with a farm owner and other silly weird animals, but there were a few things that marked me, and I swear to God, the Greek version of it is an absolute mess. We enter the top 5 still in B tier, with Cat Soup, a short avant-garde film with a cat trying to save his sister's soul after being ripped in two and taken away. It won the trippy anime battle against Tamala, Galactic Railroad and Spring and Chaos. It also doesn't have the most concise and complex story, but I feel like it doesn't last for too long and gives us some really awesome mind-bending scenes and works really well altogether. I like weird animes, what can I do? I still always get confused when I see JC Staff Studio written there. It just doesn't feel like the type of anime we associate with them nowadays. This may surprise some people, but closing the B tier I have Around the World with Willy Fogg. It's a 26 episode kids anime adaptation of Jules Verne's Around the World in 80 Days, a really popular book. I'm sorry, I mean novel. I'd say it's a story format that really works as a series, with this challenge of going around the globe as the episodes go on. It makes it very exciting. I do think it becomes a bit limited by being aimed at younger audiences, because they use some tropes that aren't that interesting for older people, the characters aren't that deep, and some moments are a bit too convenient, but it still delivers everything pretty well. I have to say I got quite nostalgic watching this, because it reminds me a lot of other anime series like the honorable mention ones that I used to watch back then. Our own only A tier is BNA, or Brand New Animal. I'm aware a lot of people think this had a wasted potential, but I disagree and personally think it's a very fun and stylish anime with likable characters, good comedy moments, and a peak opening theme. I did watch this in 2021, which was 4 years ago. Gosh darn it, I'm getting old! Just missing the first place, we have Odd Taxi claiming the silver medal. This anime is in a weird position. I started watching while this was airing and no one was really talking about it. The ratings were pretty average and it felt like the most underrated anime of the entire year, until the last episode dropped and it jumped to over 8.70 on my anime list, and then everyone started watching and some felt disappointed because their expectations were too high. I do think this is almost perfect, I just didn't like how it wrapped up some things and a few episodes could have been slightly better, but it's still like a 9.5 out of 10. We've reached the number 1, my first place, which goes to Agretsuko. It's a workplace comedy with more chibi looking characters, but don't get fooled, cause it's quite edgy and does a fantastic job at portraying random daily situations in the most epic and exciting way possible. It takes slice of life elements and turns them into the craziest stuff ever. The first 2 seasons are pretty good, but what turned this into one of my favorite animes of all time was season 3, which was absolutely fire. And I'm honestly kind of sad that we're not gonna have any more seasons since they concluded the show, but I'm happy it got the nice ending it deserved. Now, this video was way bigger than I wanted it to be, so drop the like and subscribe, comment your rankings, and join our current members. Thank you Rakosh, Pegomastax, Mustafa Duhani, Cortez MD, Maxwell, Odd Curtis, Just a Guy 2, and Sumi. Bye!